Welcome to Economics. Today we're going to be starting our first lecture on the introductory to personal finance and economics. So what's the big deal? Why do we need to pay attention to economics? Well, first and foremost, economics is more than what you think it is. First and foremost, it's understanding that our actions have an actual financial cost. Well, for instance, let's just take a quick look. Your choices today to be here listening to this lecture is a financial choice. By listening to and hopefully applying some of the tips and ideas that we learn in this unit on personal finance, is going to make you financially better off. You're going to be able to afford things better. You're going to have more money security in your life. You may make better decisions. Better decisions in school, recognizing that every time you skip a class or you cheat on an assignment or you don't do something the way that you should or ought to has a financial cost. I used to have a friend of mine who used to skip classes in college, and I explained to him how much money he was spending per class. And when he didn't go to class, it was like taking a couple $100 and setting it on fire every time he skipped a class. I said, that's what you're paying for, and you're not using it. If you pay $1,000 for a class, and that class meets 20 times, then every time that you don't show up to class, you just threw away $50. Now, I don't know about you, but throwing away $50 just doesn't make good sense. Also, what you don't learn in a class or the decisions that you make may make it possible for you to make less money, or may make it possible for you to make more money depending on what choices you make. The first and foremost, I want you to remember that economics is all about you and your choices and the economic advantages and cost that those choices incur. So when you make a choice to become a doctor or lawyer, you're going to receive a financial benefit from that choice. On the other hand, if you want to go to a really expensive school for college and you're going to get a degree in something that doesn't make a lot of money, then you need to understand that that financial decision was not that great, because you're going to spend a lot of money on a degree in which you may not get that money return, that monetary return for it. So it's all about your choices in life and recognizing those choices and how they affect your financial security. Also, personal finance has to do with your budgeting, understanding how to use, how to save, how to negotiate and schedule payments and do the things that are necessary.
How do you expect to get into college with grades like this?
No problem.
Huh?
See, I'm not going to college.
Damn right.
I am going to get through high school and then get a job like regular people.
Regular people?
Yeah, you know, work in the gas station, drive a bus, something like that.
So what you're saying is your mother and I shouldn't care if you get D's because you don't need good grades to be regular people.
Right.
Suppose you graduate from high school. Let's say you just slide by. All right, now you got to find a job. Now, what kind of salary do you expect for a regular person?
$250 a week.
$250 a week?
Yeah.
Sit down. I'm going to give you $300 a week. Yes, indeed. $300 a week, $1,200 a month. All right?
Great, I'll take it.
Yes, you will. And I will take $350 for taxes.
Whoa.
Huh? Yeah. Now, because see, the government comes for the regular people first. Now, how much does that leave you with?
$850.
All right. Now, you've got to have an apartment because you are not going to live here. So, an apartment in Manhattan will run you at least $400 a month.
I'll live in New Jersey.
All right. You live in New Jersey, you've got to have a car.
I'll ride a motorbike.
You need a helmet. Figure $100 a month for clothes and shoes.
Figure 200. I want to look good.
Okay, so what's that leave you with?
$200. So, no problem.
There is a problem. You haven't eaten yet.
I can get by on bologna and cereal. So, I got everything I need, plus $200 left for the month.
You plan to have a girlfriend?
For sure. Dad, I thought about what you said, and I see your point.
Thank you. Thank you.
But I have a point, too.
Make your point.
You're a doctor and Mom's a lawyer. And you're both successful and everything, and that's great. But maybe I was born to be a regular person and have a regular life. If you weren't a doctor, I wouldn't love you less because you're my dad. And so, instead of acting disappointed because I'm not like you, maybe you can just accept who I am and love me anyway because I'm your son.
Theo, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. There's no wonder you get D's and everything. Now, you are afraid to try because you're afraid that your brain is going to explode and it's going to ooze out of your ears. Now, I'm telling you, you are going to try as hard as you can. And you're going to do it because I said so. I am your father. I brought you in this world, and I'll take you out.
All right. As you can see, Theo had choices to make, and your choices that you make when it comes to economics determine what you're going to be able to do with the money that you have and the expenses that you occur. So, choices that you make today will affect you tomorrow. And he was obviously thinking about making some choices that may not have benefited him financially in the future. All right. When coming to economics, we have two forms of economics: microeconomics and macroeconomics. Micro is the effects upon the individual. Think of it as the narrow focus, micro, like under a microscope. It's talking about personal finance, your money, how your decisions affect your income and how you manage that money to be able to do the things that you want to do. And of course, your effects upon the economic system. Macroeconomics is the overall large-scale view of economics. It is the wide-angle lens, if you will. It is understanding interest rates, the stock market, national product, growth product, understanding how we relate to other countries when it comes to their markets, to trade, and how those trades affect not only the world but our country as well. So it's the big picture, if you will, the wide angle lens view of economics. We're going to be starting off with macroeconomics, talking about personal finance, your decisions. Hopefully you've already watched the introduction to economics last Friday. So let us keep going. Choices. It's all about choices. Uh, what are you doing to impact your future? Not only the moment, but the how you're going to be seeing things down the road. Many of you are going to be discussing the ideas of college in the future. What are going to be your degrees? Are those degrees going to give you a financial security? If you go to college, what school will you choose? How will you pay for those colleges? Will you use loans or will you get a job on campus to help offset your cost? If you know you're going to be getting a degree that's not going to be paying a lot, you may want to figure out ways to lower your educational debt because you may come out of college owing so much money that you actually make less than you would have if you never went. So you have to consider long run views. How is it going to affect me later? A lot of times when you go to college, they offer to give you extra money. Is taking that extra money a good idea or is it not? It depends on your needs and wants. It also depends on what you're going to be able to do after you get out of school. So something to look forward to and something to make understand that you are influencing your future. You're influencing your future now. Making bad grades may limit your choices to what schools you're able to get into. It also may limit the career opportunities for you. Excuse me. So, uh, when we're looking at economics for the personal reasons, for personal finance, people make choices. We all do it. We make financial choices every single day. And we have to understand what are the costs associated with that. And like I said, it's not just going to the store and buying something. A decision about your education, about choosing to go out with your friends versus stay home and study, all of those things have a financial cost. And it's a question of whether or not those financial costs are outweighed by your personal needs or wants. Okay, people respond to incentives in very predictable ways. If I worked for a company that offered me more money when I did something or managed to meet a sales quota, then I am going to work harder in order to make more money. It is just simple, dollars and cents. So, we can look at things and trends and the way things are going and get a good idea of where we should go as well. People create economic systems. Like I said, they are influenced by our choices and by the incentives, what we can get out of those choices. Uh, we definitely gain a lot by the trade variety. Um, when we understand how trade works and how it influences us, it definitely makes us make better choices. Also, remember, all choices have consequences. Even good choices have some negative consequences. So we have to weigh those and determine whether or not they are good for us or not. Um, what kind of choices might you be making in the future? Is it your classes that you're going to be choosing coming up? Or could it be your next college career? Or, hey, some of you are going to be getting a license. Do you buy a car? If so, do you need to get a job to be able to pay for it? And what kind of car? If you get a sports car, you're going to pay more in insurance. Uh, if you get a vehicle that requires a lot of extra work to maintain it, that's going to come with costs, repair and maintenance costs. Are you thinking about those choices? What if you decide not to get a car? Will that limit your job opportunities? Or maybe it'll save you money. Who knows? All those choices, as I said, come with benefits and consequences. Obviously, the best way that you can improve your economic success is education. Most people think school is boring. A lot of people hate it. Yeah, we know people, and maybe you're one of them that are in risk of not graduating. Well, understand, as the old what's the old cartoon, stay in school, fool, or something along that lines. Well, recognize that if you stay in school, the longer you stay in school, the higher your rate of potential earnings. Now, in recent years, because of jobs changing and moving, there are a lot of people that have decided that a four-year college is not what they are looking for. And it may not be the financial boon that it used to be, since college costs so much. If you owe $100,000 for a bachelor's degree, are you going to make $100,000 more in your life than you would if you didn't have it? Um, Definitely, I will just say this, that with the value of a high school diploma, um, you are absolutely going to need more education beyond high school. So this isn't a anti-college spiel. Um, this is for you guys to understand that when making your decisions, you need to make them cost effective, and you need to really think it out. Whether or not you're going to be able to make a career in the job that you're at, are you going to be able to do the things that you want to do? Everybody needs more than a high school diploma, whether that be going to a two-year community college or going to a trade school or simply going to school to get certifications and credentials. Um, your future may hold a four-year bachelor's degree or a graduate degree or even a doctorate degree, or it may not. But you need to understand that with those extra incentives, you can make more money. Um, if you are working, let's just say I worked for a construction company for 20 years, and a regular employee, made $8 to $10 an hour. They were considered general labor. Um, However, they were not skilled. They didn't have any special skills that the company could sell or charge extra for them being there. So going to school, picking up classes in welding or machining or electrician work or plumbing or whatever, those added extra skills not only allowed the company to charge more for the employee to the people they were basically using them for, um, they can also thus pay the employee more. When I worked for a construction company, I had certifications in welding and in plumbing and electrician work, and because of that, I wasn't being paid $8 to $10 an hour. I was being paid $15 to $25 an hour. At my first years as a welder, I was making around $15 an hour, and when I left the company, I was making about $25 an hour. That was without a college degree. In comparison, as a school teacher makes about $28 to $27 an hour. So going to college and spending roughly $40,000 in loans, plus the time it took to get it, I basically earned an extra $2 to $3 more an hour than I was as a welder. So the question here would be, is the cost benefit of making a few more dollars an hour worth the extra expense of the college degree? Now, there's a lot of other factors to consider when thinking about this. For me, I get to go to a job that I really enjoy, and I get to work with kids, and I get the opportunity to shape minds and do things, and that is worth a lot of personal value to me that isn't measured by dollars and pennies and cents. So when you consider that, was going back to college a good idea for me? Well, yes. However, I'm not gaining a vast advantage financially versus what I was making. So, yeah, as I said, you have to consider whether or not the benefit that you're getting from the schooling that you're getting, whether or not it is going to benefit you financially. I would like to point out, obviously, going back to school and getting those certifications and things that I did made a lot of change in my financial situation. Literally going from $8 an hour to $25 an hour by going back to school and just getting some certifications was a huge jump in pay. As well as being a teacher, that is as well a jump in pay. So moving upwards is always a good idea. Remember, stay in school, and you need to ask yourself, what am I going to get? A good example of this would be my daughter. She got accepted to expensive colleges. However, she chose to go to a more cost-effective college so that she wouldn't get out of college with so much financial debt. And instead of coming out of college with $100,000 plus in debt, she's getting out with only a fourth of that amount. So she's going to owe a lot less, which means she's going to be able to enjoy her life a lot better than she would have if she had gone to a expensive school. Because, honestly, the truth of it is, if you have a teaching degree from Harvard, you're going to make the same amount in the North Carolina public school system if you have a degree from UNC Greensboro or Appalachian State or Radford University or Virginia Tech, state schools. You're going to make the same amount as a school teacher regardless of where you went. So going to a high dollar school may not be a cost-effective choice when thinking about a job that doesn't pay that well. Versus, say, being a doctor. If you're a doctor from Harvard versus a doctor from a no-name school or a state school, the doctor from Harvard is probably going to make more money, so it might be worth that extra expense. Always something to think about. When you think about things that, when it comes to income, there are two types of income that we need to be looking at. Wages, they are your salary. This is the money that you get paid in exchange for the work you do. Now, there are two types of wages. There is hourly wages, where you get paid a certain amount of money for each hour in which you work. These jobs are usually designated as labor jobs. In other words, they are labor intensive. So if you work at McDonald's, you're going to be paid by the hour. It is a labor job. It's not a mental job. It is a physical job. Not saying that there's not any mental to it, but the majority of what they're paying for is your physical presence on the job for the hour. So you got that right there. Salary jobs are jobs that are generally associated with intellectual work. This is the type, as a school teacher, I am a salaried employee. It doesn't matter whether I work 40 hours a week or whether I work 60 hours a week. I do the job that I was hired to do regardless of the amount of time, and I am paid for that amount of money, but I'm not paid for the time. So if I was able to accomplish all that work in, say, 20 hours, I would earn the same amount of money regardless of whether it took me 50 or 20 hours. So salary jobs are intellectual work. You work fast intellectually, then you're not going to spend as much time doing that work to make that money. And I usually see associated with salary jobs are generally associated with education. So you're going to look at a career that's going to require a minimum of a bachelor's degree. So hourly work is physical work. Salary work is mental work. So those are wages. Rents. This is any time that you have something in which someone else gives you money in exchange for use of it. So let's say you have a farm and you have a field that you're not using. You can rent that field to another farmer to grow corn or whatever. That person pays you for your property while they use it. Most of us think of rent when we think of apartments, places to live. You don't own the place. You're just renting it. You're paying them each month to allow you to use that place. Rents can also be not only the use of property, but for certain types of services thereof. So think of rent as anytime someone is using something you own in exchange for money for a period of time. Who do you think are some people that have very high wages? What kind of jobs? Why would their incomes be so high? Well, if we think about jobs that pay very high wages, let's see, doctors and lawyers always comes up at the top of the list of suggestions from students. Well, why do doctors get paid so much and lawyers get paid so much? Well, to become a doctor or a lawyer requires years and years and years of education. Once again, more education you have, the more potential you have to make more money. It's not a guarantee, but it's the more potential that you have to make more money. So, a doctor is in school for many, many, many years. They get a bachelor's degree, then they go to medical school, and then they have to do their internships. If you start at 18 years old, by the time you get out of med school and become an actual doctor, you're in your late 20s, approaching 30 years old before you even get your job. With all those years of schooling comes all that debt that goes with it. Same thing with a lawyer. You go to a four-year college and then you apply for your LSAT, take a test, get into law school, then do your internships, your clerking, and then you have to sit for the bar exam, and that takes years. Once again, you're going to be into your late 20s before you ever are an actual person able to make an income from that job. Plus, you had all those years of education. It's equivalent to a doctorate degree. So, you have all that money tied up in education. And yeah, to get that money back, you're going to have to charge high pay, which means you're going to have to get paid a lot in order to do those jobs. So, I have a niece that is a lawyer, and I know that she graduated college from law school with over $200,000 in student loans. Well, $200,000 in student loans means her loan payments are at least $2,000 a month to pay back her student loans. If you've got that kind of loan payment, then you're going to have to make way more than $2,000 a month just to pay your student loans. So, once again, this is why doctors and lawyers are paid so much, because they have to pay back so much. They also have insurances and liabilities and other things that add on to the cost in which they have to charge. This is why when you go visit a lawyer, they charge you $200 an hour. Well, that's the only way they can manage to pay all their fees, all their insurance, all their student loans, and still make a living that would improve their situation. So there you are. Those are why those jobs are the way they are. So something to think about. All right, folks, we're going to stop here and we'll start talking about budgeting and financial planning tomorrow.